the key to marketing is one thing, it's repetition. You have to multiply the number of times that you have sent the exact same message to the exact same market again and again and again. It's the
Mhm.
fact that I don't quit.
Are you looking to achieve massive success in your life without dealing with costly investment nightmares? If yes, then this is the podcast for you. Here, we provide engineers and busy professionals all the secrets and strategies to create multiple streams of income, build generational wealth, and live a meaningful life by design. Here's your host, Ted Patel.
Hey everyone, this is your host Ted Patel, and welcome back to Decoding Cash Flow. Today we have a very special guest, Tom Zeeb, who is a seasoned real estate investor, mentor, and the founder of Traction Real Estate Investors Association. He has helped countless investors transform their business through his proven negotiation and deal making strategies. And from struggling to make ends meet to building a thriving real estate empire. So, Tom, with that said, welcome to Decoding Cash Flow. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks for having me.
All right. So before we dive deep into, your strategies, if you can give our listeners a little bit background about yourself, like what did you do before you got started into real estate, and what's your main focus as of now?
Yeah. Before I got into real estate, I had a 9 to 5 day job. I was a couple years out of college. The industry was kind of a funny one. I was living in Washington, D.C., so it was a cross between politics and IT. So we
Mhm.
basically did software for lobbyists or government affairs divisions of corporations. We did the tech side of things, the networking, the software, and some political consulting mixed in. So it was a very odd hodgepodge of jobs.
Mhm. All right. And what made you dive into this segment of the real estate?
I mean, I liked that work a little bit at first, but what I didn't like was feeling trapped by a job. I didn't
Uh,
like, one office, 9 to 5. That's a lot of hours every year. I mean, you're talking over 2,000 hours a year,
yeah.
minimum.
Mhm.
And there's limits to the salary, there's limits on how far you can go. It's very demanding on your time, and I didn't want any of that. I wanted to get out, and I also had been very financially irresponsible during that time, and I spent a heck of a lot more than I made, and I plummeted myself into debt, and I needed to find a way out. And that's when I wound up in real estate investing.
And when was that? Like, when did you get started, jump to the
I
real
was
estate?
in, 2001.
2000. Wow, that's quite some time actually. You have
Yeah, it's been
been
a
a
while
veteran.
now. I must be getting old, Ted. I don't know.
That's great. And any specific, like, was it a pivotal moment that made you think, let's get into real estate? I'm done with doing 9 to 5. Uh, you know.
Yeah, I had that pivotal moment when I realized how badly in debt I was. And when I sat down, I never understood numbers or debt very well. So when I sat down and added it up, I think I was 113 grand in the hole on revolving credit card and car loan and college loans and all this other stuff piled up. I went, yikes, how do I get out of that? Like, why, when I pay my minimums, doesn't it add up to more? And then I realized paying my minimums is never going to get me anywhere, but I couldn't afford to pay anymore. Then I knew I was in trouble. But instead of tackling the problem head on, I stuck my head in the sand. I took a 2 week vacation, and I went to India and went whitewater rafting with a bunch of buddies. And I went
Great.
flying off the raft in the Ganges River and went underwater in a class 5 rapid, and didn't know
Oh,
what was going on, and we started to get a little nervous. But then the nervousness and the fear went away and was replaced by sheer anger. Like, what the heck have I done? I haven't done anything. I went to college. I racked up
yeah.
a lot of debt, and my idea of solving my problem was to take another vacation. And so I kind of had this reckoning. And I went, okay, if I get out of this, things are going to be different. But I know, obviously got out of it. I'm here now. I got out of it. I was
Yeah.
out of the river. My friends laughed at me. I got home. I was still stuck in the same job, the same 113 grand in debt, the same no way out, the same not having a clue what to do. And I went, oh man, what do I do now? Right. I knew I needed to change, but I had no idea what to change or how to change until a friend of mine handed me a copy of a book of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I
Uh-huh.
read tons of your listeners have read.
Yeah, I'm sure, most of them, I would say, whoever is in at least real estate would have gone through those pages.
Yeah,
And
so
as you said, right, that incident that you just described, right? Those kind of incidents just make you think like life is too short, for for just to work for someone else sometimes,
yeah,
like yeah, no,
yeah,
no, there are people who enjoy 9 to 5, right? There are many people who just enjoy loving what they do.
that's fine.
But
I'm
that
happy
that's
for
fine, right?
them.
Yeah.
It's just not
But
me.
there are other peoples who other individuals who just don't want freedom, just want to live life on their own terms, want to spend time wherever and on whatever they want.
Yeah.
So it all depends. That's great. And when you started into real estate, what exactly did you do? Like, what is the first step into real estate?
Well, I was clueless. So my first step into real estate, I mean, I love Robert Kiyosaki books, but there wasn't a lot of how to. So the
Hmm.
only thing I knew how to do, or the only thing he really said was, hey, go buy a cash flowing asset. Go buy a rental property that pays off money, preferably a multi-unit. So I didn't know any better. I had asked my sister to read the book too. I gave it to her. She was in a similar scenario. She went, "Wow, this is," she snapped when she read it too. She said, "This is our way out. This is our ticket out of this mess." And so we went. She lived in New York City at the time. I was living
Hmm.
in Washington D.C. at the time. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. I was living in D.C. at the time. She's in New York City. We went uh, looking for real estate in New York City, landlord
Yeah.
friendly New York City. What on earth could possibly go
Yeah.
wrong?
Good luck finding a cash flow property over there.
Yeah, well, the funny thing was we did. Well, one that was
Oh, you
supposed to be
did?
cash flowing. Oh yeah, in a rougher neighborhood of Brooklyn. It was rougher at the time.
Uh-huh.
Now it's
Yeah.
lovely and expensive, but it was rougher back then. And it was supposed to pay out $800 a month. Now, it was a 6 unit building, $800 a month cash flow. I thought, hey, this is great. Not realizing that it would take a lot more to get that $800, and also not realizing it wasn't actually producing it. It was supposed to produce $800 a month, but it wasn't because none of the tenants were paying a dime. So we wound up as tired landlords immediately. Like right off the bat, we got clobbered over the head with it.
Mhm. What after that? Like, what did you do with that property? Sold it off or sunk to?
Well, eventually, it took a while
Uh-huh.
because all sorts of problems with the title then that somehow we had managed to buy without problems, but we couldn't sell it without these problems rearing their head. We
Yeah.
eventually let it go on a short sale and found an
Uh-huh.
investor to save us from it. But during that time that all this was going down, I I, I discovered that there were actual, real people, real estate investors in my own area. So I started going to real estate investor association meetings in the DC area. And I walked
Hmm.
in, and there's a room full of rehabbers and landlords and these people called wholesalers, but I had no clue what they did. And I went, wow, all right, this thing really works. So I started marketing close to the home, and I got a tiny little property in suburban DC under contract. At this time, I thought, well, instead of renting it out, because that didn't work very well, I'm going to fix it up and rehab it, because what could possibly go wrong?
Hmm.
I was walking into another trap, but I lucked out because another investor at one of my meetings, when I had announced that I had this deal, he offered to buy it from me, which I didn't understand you could do that. And I said, what do you mean? I mean, I haven't fixed it yet. He goes, no, no, I don't want you to fix it. I want to fix it. I said, well, but I'm not done with it. He goes, I said, I haven't even settled on it yet. He goes, look, assign your contract to me. I'll pay you to take the deal off your hands, and then he'll do all the work. I went, you can do that? Really? I mean, legally? He said, yeah, it's not that hard. And so next thing you know, I assigned my contract to him. I didn't have to come up with any of my own money. I had no risk. I had no credit. I didn't have to do any of the work. I didn't have to hire any crews. I didn't have to do anything. And I walked away with a check for almost 23 grand. I mean, my check was, I can't forget it. It was $22,819.66. And I went, this is great. It's not going to take that long to pay off 113 grand if I keep doing this kind of thing. So that's what I
Hmm.
focused on. And it worked.
So you started doing the wholesaling. That's what, the terminology as we use, right?
Yeah.
Assigning the contract, put
Yeah.
the buyer
Assign the
under the
contract to
seller
somebody
under
else.
the contract and just flip it over. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Ted, because I realized something. When I would go to my RIA, my Real Estate Investors
Hmm.
Association, it was a room full of rehabbers and landlords. But the rehabbers were super busy rehabbing. And they got so wrapped up in the rehabs that they took their eye off the marketing ball and they
Hmm.
didn't do any more marketing. So their businesses were very stop start. And then I realized the same thing was happening with the landlords, these buy and hold investors, these BRRR, whatever they
Yeah.
called them now. Back then they were just landlords. They would buy a property, but they would get so wrapped up in all the tenant issues and toilet issues, so the classic tenants and toilets problems, that
Mhm.
they would stop marketing. So I went, well, wait a minute. I like doing marketing and I love negotiating deals. So I can just focus on those and then sell it to one of these other two types of people who need a deal because they're wrapped up in everything else and don't have time to do the marketing. So it wound up being a relationship that was just a perfect match. And that's what I focused on. And that's how I got myself out of debt and out of trouble.
All right. So you started with wholesaling. So what's your main focus as of now? Like, do you still do wholesaling or it's just mainly coaching? How much time do you spend coaching? Just give a little bit
Yeah,
idea
it's a
on that.
total mix. So
Yeah.
I spend a fair bit of time coaching and helping people because I've been very
Hmm.
passionate about that. But on my investing side, I do a little bit of everything. So my,
Okay.
my journey's been interesting. I when I got into wholesaling, I stayed as nothing but a wholesaler for over 10 years. I just didn't
Hmm.
want to deal with anything else, didn't want to mess with anything else. I, Fast money is addictive and it's nice. It solves a lot of problems and it's good. But there's one small problem is when you stop wholesaling, you don't make any more money because it's
Yeah.
not really an investment, it's a business. So if you don't
Mhm.
do it, you don't make anything. So there was a certain point where I said, well, sometimes I want to do a rehab. I wound up with a very good contractor. So I said, okay, I'll wholesale the good ones and I'll rehab the great ones myself. But every year and a half, I do a rehab because I
Mhm.
just don't love it as much, right? It's too long drawn out. It doesn't fit my personality type. Probably too much ADD to stay focused. And then after a couple of years of doing that, then I said, well, some buy and holds wouldn't be the end of the world, because by that point I'm married, I got kids. You go, well, it'd be nice to have the steady income coming in. So I started doing some buy and holds. Um,
Mhm.
but then just about 4 years ago now, I think things changed during COVID, and everything I owned was in the city of Washington, D.C. And things changed. Crime rate started to spike. People were suburbanizing massively, being able to telecommute, all this stuff. So I was like starting to watch values drop and crime skyrocket. And I'm going to be in trouble with my rentals. So I rehabbed them all off and sold them all off and got rid of
Mhm.
everything and went back to being just a wholesaler. I say just a wholesaler in quotes because there's nothing wrong with being just a wholesaler.
Yeah.
And then in the process, I moved to Florida and we've been starting to invest in some buy and hold rentals here because I'm waiting for the next upcycle, which I've seen before. And we're taking our money from wholesaling and investing it into self-storage facilities because that's what I really want to buy and hold because I don't have to deal with real live tenants. Self-storage is just closets full of junk. It doesn't complain.
All right. So you moved on to self-storage from residential investments.
Yeah,
How many are you still looking for self-storage or you have
just getting
already
rolling on that.
closed few?
Just getting
Just
rolling. That's
okay.
like decided this is what we want now. Sat
Right.
down with my wife. We went through the whole thing. Said
Hmm.
this is what we want. This will be the way forward. So it's that
Yeah.
interesting journey. Not every real estate investor is going to go the same way.
Yeah.
I went almost landlord, full-time wholesaler plus rehabber, wholesaler, rehabber, landlord, and then basically reverse the process. And now I'm coming back into being wholesaler and landlord. Everybody's got a different journey. There's no really right or wrong answer. You just have to know
Yeah.
what's best for you and what fits your needs, your wants, your desires, your family situation, and your personality.
Exactly. Yep. Can't agree more on that for sure. Right. So now talking about, I know you founded this Traction Real Estate Investors Association. What is that like? What is that association mainly focused on?
Yeah. Well, interesting. I'm not technically the founder of it.
Okay.
I run it. I'm the president of it.
Uh-huh.
The Real Estate Investors Association, I was a member of for many years before I
Okay.
got asked to take over. So I took over leadership of it because look, it had gotten me out of my job. It taught me what to do. The Real Estate Investors Associations, you go on usually a monthly basis. and you can go to the meeting either in person or online and learn an enormous amount about the different aspects and the different types of real estate investing. You network and build your team. You can find settlement attorney recommendations there and contractor recommendations, kind of everything you need in
Yeah.
one roof. It's fantastic. So I was a
Mhm.
member of this particular group for probably about let's see, maybe 5, 6, almost 7 years. And then when the fellows that were running it were looking to retire, they said, "Would you like to take over?" I thought, no, that sounds crazy. But they said, "Well, you've really grown and set yourself free from here. Maybe
Yeah.
you want to give back." And I took a look at it, and you know what? I have no regrets. I love it.
Yeah.
It's a passion project. I absolutely love it. My wife loves it, so we both run it, and it's nice to take other people that were in the same situation we used to be in and show them
Mhm.
that there's another way out. It's not just about a job or trying to hang on to a job for 50 years or, work, 60 hours a week. You don't have to do any of that. You can
Yeah.
literally do real estate investing successfully and all different types, no matter what your personality is.
Yeah. And one of the best way to build a network also, right? Not only help other people, but build a network
Yeah,
that might
fabulous.
help you in the future for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now coming back to the strategies, like the deal making strategies that you have implemented in your business, it, those are mainly focused on the wholesaling part, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I
So
still, I
can we
mean,
just dive deep into
yep.
those things, step by step, like what exactly you do, which is different, maybe different from someone else, uh, the regular wholesalers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I take a couple things that are different. Let me start with the outcome, then I'll talk about the
Okay.
way, when you talk about the exit out, the way in. One of the reasons I stick with wholesaling so much is that I love the lifestyle. I
Hmm.
don't like long, drawn out projects. I can't stand trying to focus on something for 3 or 4 months. It's great for the people that can. I'm just a little bit too, I like things very fast paced. So wholesaling lets me keep very fast paced. And so I like the lifestyle that it affords me because it's afforded a very nice house in a very nice area. I've got lots of travel. I've got what I need for my wife and kids, and everything's great. So I love that level of income because it's highly leveraged. I, I
Hmm.
do I do one thing that doesn't even take all that long when you have the right one, and I make a lot of money out of it. So I love the leverage point rather than selling myself to a job for 2,080 hours a year, right? 52 weeks times 40 hours is 2080. 2,080 hours, I can work a very thin fraction of that and make even more. So I like the leverage that wholesaling gives me.
Hmm.
That's one of the first reasons I do it. Uh, the other reason is what I need to do for the business leads to everything else. I mean, the core foundation is marketing and negotiation. Well, no matter what exit strategy you want to do, you have to do those. You always need to find deals and make deals. Then you wholesale, or then you rehab, or then you buy and hold it, or then it's commercial. So the core skills that I've focused on in wholesaling actually apply to everything else that I do. So even the stuff I'm looking for now, it's commercial. It's very different. The outcome is different. I still need to market for it. I still need to negotiate it. And
Yeah.
that's why those, to me, that's the core key of the business.
Hmm. And any specific strategies you apply or the process that you put in place to, first of all, let's say wholesaling, marketing, my bad. So
Yeah. Oh, no, that's
any,
marketing.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to stand out from the crowd. That
Hmm.
doesn't mean being off the wall zany. It just means being a little bit more distinctive. So that might be, making sure my logo catches or the color scheme catches. But honestly, even that's secondary to the one thing. If there's one thing your listeners get out of this, it's that the key to marketing is one thing, it's repetition. You have to multiply the number of times that you have sent the exact same message to the exact same market again and again and again. It's the
Hmm.
fact that I don't quit. It's the fact that I teach my students not to quit. Keep going no matter what. Keep it on a repetition cycle and keep it going because it's that repetition that actually gets people to contact you. We kind of instinctively know this from TV commercials or radio commercials. We've heard them so many times we can sing along, and yet, because they drilled it into our head. And yet we know they do it a million times, but we do it once and then claim it doesn't work. That's why most investors fail or flop out of the business because they don't keep going. They don't multiply the impact that they're having. They don't have any repetition. That's the entire key to marketing right there.
And how do you get the list on of the people whom you need to
Yeah.
market, and what are the criteria you use to filter out that list? Okay, these are my specific segments.
Yep.
These are more, there is more probability these might be interested in selling. How do you get to that point?
It starts with understanding what I'm after. I am after a motivated seller. So not just any old seller, a motivated seller. And what motivates a person? Well, there's a problem. They have some sort of problem. They're being pressed, some sort of pressing problem that's bearing down on them. And it makes it so that they need to sell the property even more than they want to sell it. They need to sell it more than they want to.
Mhm.
And so when I sit down and I think about what would cause that kind of issue, maybe it's a death and inheritance, maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's they're falling behind on the mortgage payments, it's pre-foreclosure, maybe they're a sick and tired landlord, something I understand
Mhm.
well. Maybe it's they've got liens against the property, maybe the property's falling apart, maybe right, all things like that. Those problems are what are going to press them to need to sell, and make it so that they need to sell it even more than they want to. So that sets me up right for the negotiation, because then they want their problem solved as their number one problem, not the price. So I can still get the price I want and win, but solve their problem and have them win. And then I create that win-win scenario that so many people think is impossible. It's not
Mhm.
impossible. You just can't be fighting about the same thing.
And I'm sure you might be using the direct mail marketing campaign. In addition to that,
Absolutely.
anything else that you did?
Um, Direct mail, letters, postcards, signs, advertising, driving for deals. So literally going around and looking for properties that have issues. I
Hmm.
tag them in my app, which is the Deal Machine app. And then that starts a mailing sequence out of there as well with postcards. And it's awesome that way, because then you're getting motivated people to see your message, connect with it, and then call you, or go to your website and fill out a form, or text you, or however it is, they contact you, and you take that contact and you start negotiating with it.
Hmm. And any specific automation that you have in place for, like, once you have the list in place, okay, you schedule to send out the mails. Once they reply back, you add all those details tied to the property to follow up. Anything specific?
You're going to be surprised, Ted. Yeah, I'm almost old-fashioned about it. There's two things I do for follow-up. The deals I put into the Deal Machine app, there's a follow-up sequence built in. So I preset it. It just fires automatically. I don't have to worry about it. All my repetition, all my follow-ups being taken care of. If there's specific calls I need to make or other specific mailings I might need to do, this is the old-fashioned part. I just have a note on my calendar. Literally,
Hmm.
it'll say repeat out-of-state owners list, or repeat probate list in, this county or that county. That's it. I don't think you need to get more sophisticated than that. I think too many people get wrapped up in how they're managing their deals, that they're trying to learn a new piece of software, or get, wrapped lost in the tech. I think that's a mistake. Just focus on what you need to do. It doesn't need to be any more complex than an entry on your calendar. Be that an old-fashioned pen and paper calendar. I punch it into Microsoft Outlook, which syncs to my Google Calendar. So my assistant can see what it is, my wife can see what it is, I can see what it is on my phone or when I'm sitting at my machine. So to me, those slightly old-fashioned ways, they've never been beat.
And let's say once you send out the your marketing message, postcards, or letters, whatever, when you get the first call, right? How do you take it from there? Like, how do you start putting the numbers together, start negotiating with them? What what are the things or steps that you take?
My first step is I call it pinpoint. So I
Mhm.
teach it to my students that, look, when someone calls you or contacts you, your first job is to pinpoint their problem. That means talking to them, getting the ball rolling, and asking a lot of basic questions, but try to make many of them open-ended. Hey, why are you selling?
Yeah.
What do you think it's worth? How much are you asking? Have you listed with an agent? Yes, no, why not? How do you think it's worth that amount of money? Well, what kind of condition is it in? Describe it to me. What would you fix in the next year? You want to get basically questions to get the conversation rolling. And I have kind of just a crib sheet that I use of all the questions. I give it to my students as well, so that you never get tongue tied. You never get confused about what to say. You just look at the sheet and ask the next question. Because I don't care what order it's in. It's not a script. Life doesn't tend to follow a script. But you want to ask these questions because it gets them talking, and the more they're talking to you, they're building rapport with you. The more they like you, the more they know you, the more they trust you, and then you become the only logical solution for them, and they don't want to go anywhere else because they've built that relationship with you purely by the fact that you've asked them questions, and the questions start to also turn up the heat, which makes them a little uncomfortable, but that's good because they appreciate it in the end. And it's also starting to frame out your negotiation. So there's a whole bunch of birds with one stone. I like it that way. Good leverage.
Right. And once you have all your numbers together, like, of course, you'll be marking, depends, right? 70% after fixed value, or whatever formula you use.
I
Once you
generally
have
follow the
that,
70% rule. The 70% of the after
yeah,
repair value minus repairs. That's
yeah,
usually what rehabbers want to buy at. Landlords can be a
yeah,
little different. So you've got to know your buyers. So ask
right,
your landlords how they buy and how they analyze, and ask your rehabbers. Are they 70%? Are they 65% minus repairs? Are they 72%, 75% minus repairs? Doesn't matter. It's still basically going to come down to that formula. You just tweak the 70. And so I know they're going to, rehabbers will buy at that number, 70% of the after repair value minus the repair cost. That's what my buyer wants to buy at. So my job as a wholesaler is to get it under contract from the seller for less than that. If I know I can sell it to a rehab buyer for that price, whatever X is, then I need to get it at X minus. And depending how good of a job I do negotiating, the minus, part gets bigger and bigger. And the more spread I create, the more money for me, because that's my wholesale.
yeah. Now let's talk about the negotiation part, right? Of course, not all the sellers will agree on selling the property, because they have some X amount of dollars. And when you ask it for like 60 or 70 cents on the dollar, they might sometimes they might get freaked out. How
Yeah.
do you handle that, or how do you negotiate and try to bring the seller's expectation align with yours?
Yeah. No, great question, Ted, because right, people come across that all the time.
Yeah,
I'm looking for 70% of the after repair value. That's once
yeah,
it's all fixed up. Now, if you think about it, the fact that the property is not all fixed up means it's not worth that yet. So it's a discount in our mind because we know what could be, but
yeah,
it's actually only worth the current the fair market value. So when I'm talking to the seller, I'm not telling them, well, I need a 30% discount off of, the after price, because that's not their bit.
yeah,
That's their property in the future, not now. So I'll look at them and say, what is your property currently worth? Let's look at that. And then based on what I see at the property or their situation, I work the price down so it works. But the value play I'm after is what's the future value of the property. So it's not like the people are viewing it necessarily as a 30% minus repairs discount. They're looking at it going, okay, my price, the property's not worth as much in its current condition.
yeah,
At the end of the day, the importance of getting the marketing right and knowing who you're talking to is because the more motivated they are, they're not after top dollar anyway. They're after getting their problem solved. So if you can get them out from under the burden of that property, that's what they care about. They're
hmm,
not as hung up on price. Yes, price matters, but it's not the only thing that matters to them, and it's not the number one thing that matters to them. They want to solve that problem. That's what you need to work on, is work with that seller on solving their problem.
all right. And of course, once you put these properties under contract, there might be certain instances where you're not able to, wholesale it because of XYZ reason. How do you back that out? Like, how do you back out
Well,
of the deal in that case?
that would mean I screwed up my initial calculations royally. Look, it's not that's never happened. It's happened a couple times.
Yeah.
The way my contracts are written, like I make sure they keep me safe, they keep my students safe. So there's these
Mhm.
big red, giant, beautiful eject buttons. in each contract. If anything goes wrong, I can smash that eject button and eject out the safety and not lose any money.
Okay. All right. And as you mentioned, right, you also coach
Yeah.
for the PU, provide coaching to the individuals who might be interested in wholesaling. So
Yeah,
what
I
are
coach.
what are the things that you teach during your coaching session?
I
Starting
focus.
from, of course.
Probably no surprise after what we've just talked about. I really try to get people focused on marketing and
Mhm.
get them focused on negotiation. Those core skills, because then they can do any exit strategy they want. I'll teach them how to wholesale. I'll teach them how to rehab. Teach them how to buy and hold, because that's all downline. What matters at first is that you learn how to find deals from great marketing, and you learn how to make a fabulous deal by awesome negotiation skills. That's the key. So what I like to focus on is that, because those skills are going to carry with you through all of life, certainly all your
Mhm.
investing life, and quite honestly, particularly the negotiation, it crosses over into all walks of life because we're all negotiating all the time. That's what human
Yeah.
beings do.
Yeah. So let's talk about, you might have done many deals, right?
Yes.
So if you can give our listeners a little bit insight on any one of the deal where it was a very hard negotiation going on, and how did you handle that? What exactly it was and what was the outcome?
Oh yeah. Sometimes
Yeah.
you get people that they're not ready. They know they want to solve their problem, but they're not quite motivated enough, so they're clinging to the price. Usually the toughest ones are the ones that have started, like they're hung up on the price they found on Zillow, or they're hung up on the price they think the neighbor sold for, or they're hung up on the price that the agent told them they listed it for. Maybe they tried to list it for a while. Like I love finding deals that have been sitting on the MLS for a long time, longer than I call it long days on
Mhm.
market. I consider it whatever the average is, double plus. If as long as if it's been if 60 days is average, then long days on market is double plus, so 120 days plus. But talking to those people, they're still hung up on what they think the number should have been. Particularly these
Mhm.
days, many markets across America are softening and falling, but people still want the price they could have had a couple of years ago had they bothered to sell then. And so you're having these conversations. It is like pulling teeth sometimes because they just don't want to accept that they can't get what they wanted for. And my general solution with that is to be patient. I make the offer, I explain why. They usually don't want to accept it right away. I'll circle back around. They're all flat. I'll tell them, go somewhere else. Like, try to find someone else that'll give you that price. Good luck with it. And then when I circle back around on my follow up, assuming they haven't already called me, they go, "Oh yeah, you know what? You were right. I didn't sell it, and nobody has offered me anything close." And the fact that I was right all along, quote unquote, well, now they trust me even more because you know what? That guy didn't mess around with me. He was honest with me. He was a straight shooter from the beginning. And then when you come back on that follow up, they're more likely to sell to you.
Mhm. Any specific deal that you like to tell about, which was like toughest deal that to crack or
Yeah.
if yeah.
I had one where the guy knew he had a major title issue. So it was almost kind of like, well, if you can solve this, you can buy it. But as things started getting closer and we were working on solving the title issue, uh, you could tell then he was thinking, oh, maybe I'll just wait for him to solve the title issue and then sell it somewhere else. So I had to remind him, look, I've got this locked in. I've been doing a lot of work. I think this is what a lot of people miss, particularly as investors, is you need to constantly resell yourself and make
Mm,
sure you're selling the value of what you're doing. So I basically kept going back to this guy saying, look, this is going to take at one point I said it's probably going to take about 2 months. Every week I called him, even though I had nothing to say. I would call and say, we're 1 week closer. We're 1 week closer. And then when we had to wait for things to file at the courthouse, I would call the courthouse first and find out where we were, and we were slowly progressing forward. And then I would call him to say, "Hi, it's Tom. I have nothing new to add, just that we're 1 week closer." That way, he knew I was working on it and staying with him. So that was difficult, but profitable in the end and worthwhile. I've had other times. Look, what I usually tell people is there's going to be drama in every deal. You might have
mhm.
a very messy deal up front, like it's difficult to negotiate with them, and it's a pain in the butt going back and forth trying to get all the details right. But then it's usually smooth sailing all the way through till settlement. Or the drama flip-flops. It's easy at the beginning and everything comes together perfectly. Then you get all the drama at the last minute.
Then,
Hey, here's a good one for you. We had a deal where all the drama came right at the end. Um, when the guy told me why he was selling, he said it was because he was going away. And I guess I kind of understood that going away was meant going to prison, but I didn't really broach the subject any deeper. So on basically on the way to the settlement table, the settlement attorney says, title company, the settlement company says to me, uh, why is he going to prison? And my only answer, stupidly, was, I don't know. They said, you really need to find out because what if it's something where he doesn't have the legal right to sell or there's something wrong or maybe his signature is not valid?
yeah,
And I went, oh boy, this is like right up to the last minute. Well,
yeah.
it turned out it was the second offense of drunk driving. And in that state, they had changed the law where your second offense of drunk driving was mandatory jail time. So
Mhm.
I immediately switched it to, okay, I'm going to pick you up tomorrow. You're not driving. I'll pick you up and take you to the settlement. We didn't have everything worked out yet. So we got there and I said, let's let's clear this out. There was another time I had a deal where it was falling apart on the buyer side. So my buyer, who I had screened to be a cash buyer, had asked me if he could use financing, which I generally don't like, but it was a good buyer, consistent buyer. He was fine. Well, then when his financing didn't come through, it threatened to blow the deal up again at the last minute, all the drama at the last minute. So we're on the way to the settlement table, and thinking, man, he's not going to have the money. He says, well, I'm going to refinance one of my rental properties, but it's going to be a few weeks. So now I have to get the seller, right? I want to sell that the seller has a problem I'm trying to solve. So now I had to figure out a way to, all right, I'm going to take the deal subject to, leave the existing mortgage in place, still give something to the seller, which was basically asking my buyer, how much cash can you come up with now? Because I needed to give all of that to my buyer. I delayed taking my fee and I delayed paying the buyer's mortgage off and the balance of what was owed to the buyer because I was waiting for to the seller because I was waiting for my buyer's refinance to come through,
Yeah.
which basically at that point I went, I'm never going to bother let anyone do financing again. It's cash buyers I want. They've got to have the money in the bank to do it because bank mortgages have too many restrictions on them. There's too many complications, too many things that can go wrong, and then I'm left hanging. And worse, my motivated seller, whom I've promised to solve their problem, I've left them hanging, and I don't like that either.
Mhm. Yeah. Mm, when you have a buyer who's dependent on the financing loan, there might be many issues that comes up, right? And
Yeah.
then
Now I go strictly
yeah,
cash. I want to see their bank account. I want to know that they have the cash in the bank, or they have a line of credit. They can show me their line of credit statement with a balance that they have enough money available to do the entire thing. I'll
or
also
they have done
allow
this
hard money.
transactions through the hard money lender or someone multiple
Yeah,
times.
I'll allow hard money, but I want to talk to the hard money lender directly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
hey, hard money lender, does the buyer actually have their act together?
yeah.
Because it's one thing to think you have a hard money loan coming, but that's still someone else that needs to approve
Approve
it,
it. Yeah.
and that's somebody else that can blow it all up too. So I'm cautious on that. I prefer the straight cash buyers now. I'm just don't want to mess around anymore.
So what is your suggestions or what do you say to the people who wants to get started into real estate? Let's say starting wholesaling. How do they need to start? Like what is the first step?
Start, right? Decide you want
And
to do it.
that's of
Start.
course, yeah,
Focus on the marketing
yeah.
because that's the only thing that matters. Ted, one
Hmm.
thing I've noticed, again, trained a lot of students over the last 20 plus years, and so
Hmm.
many people come in and they want to learn everything else. They want to start doing everything. How do I estimate repairs and how do I get the contract? That's all fun and exciting, but it's not going to matter because you'll never get to do it until you learn how to market first. You have to get your marketing down right at the beginning. And a lot of people are scared of that. Sometimes they're scared because they don't know what to say. So they're scared of the second bridge they need to cross, so they don't cross the first. So we got to work on that. The first bridge, get some marketing going and get yourself talking to people on the phone. Even if it's
Hmm.
just crazy people off of Craigslist that are for sale by owner, call them anyway because I want to get you starting to talk. I want to get you starting to practice because that's going to make all the difference in the world. mentally for you,
Mhm.
and particularly as a beginner, you're going to know this is real. There are people out there, and you have to get ready to handle a ton of rejection because most people are going to say no to you. And that scares the living pants off of people too. It's crazy. They literally don't like being told no. They don't like being rejected or, oh my God, somebody was mean to me. Yeah, it's going to happen. Get used to it.
It's a part of the game.
Part of the
Yeah.
game. In fact, be happy when it happens because now you're one step closer to the good deal. But you've got to get those negative ones out of the way first. And there's a lot of them, many more negative ones, many more no's than there are yeses. But that's okay because, like you said,
Yeah.
it's the name of the
And you
game.
only need one yes,
Correct.
just to get started. So, yeah,
Correct. One yes, now you've got rolling, and you'll be surprised how much comes into place when you're actually working on a deal, not just studying about it.
it's true. All right. Hey, loving this conversation, Tom, but
Yeah,
want to be mindful of your time also,
cool.
so would like to move to the final round of questions. But before moving there, is there anything else that you'd like to tell to our listeners?
No, that's it. Get started. I think the number one thing you'll regret once you do it is that you didn't do it sooner. And it's like as everyone's number one regret. I wish I would have done it sooner. Well, why didn't you? And everyone's always got a litany of excuses. I imagine you've been thinking about it. You're not sure. Jump in and try it. Watch what
Yeah,
happens. Yeah,
that's
particularly
right.
if you're learning fundamental skills, like I teach in marketing and negotiation, those are going to stay with you in any walk of life and any business anyway. So you might as well jump in and make it happen. I don't think you'll regret it.
All right. Okay. That's a great advice. And I'm sure, people won't be in the analysis paralysis mode, right? That's what
Yes.
we say. You
Yeah.
got to get started somewhere, regardless. Nothing is 100% accurate, right?
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Tom, ready for the final round of questions?
Go for it.
All right. So I know you mentioned one book, but I'd like to know another book which had a most impact on your life or on your business.
Interesting. Well, Robert Kiyosaki's second book called Cash Flow Quadrant was, I mean, I can almost combine the two together, but
Okay.
those are awesome. Uh, Fantastic book that really changed my mindset and helped me understand things
Hmm.
is called To Be or Not to Be Intimidated.
Okay.
The author's name is Robert Ringer. Love that book.
Hmm.
I'm overdue to read it again. It's one of those things, books I read every couple of years, just reread it because it's that good. That really changed kind of life in the business jungle. Love it. And I guess this is a little self-serving to be fair, Ted, but I wrote a book on how to correctly flip houses for profit. And I'll tell you, having to put together a book where you lay it out, when you can describe it in an intelligent enough way that it gets published and comes out in a book, you go over and you've refined that process out. So I
Yeah.
like that book too. But admittedly, I'm biased because it's my book.
Yeah. You never know. Yeah, there's so many valuable information in every book that you can find. So uh, maybe some of the listeners might pick up the book. They might find something good in there, something
On
helpful.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What are your main source of information to learn and grow?
Main source of information to learn and grow. In terms of marketing, negotiation,
Anything related to business or personal development doesn't matter.
I like to read a lot. And it's not always strictly business books either. I'll read a lot of biographies or even fiction.
Hmm.
Right? Fiction is clearly about real people. It's just fictional real people, right? It's obviously about real life experience. Sometimes seeing how different characters behave and different things go down, even if it's not specifically about business, I think that kind of goes inside of you and helps in that respect. Other than that, I would say that the top skill that I ever learned and got good at was negotiation. And I started my negotiation journey with a fantastic coach named Roger Dawson. I mean, just absolutely fantastic. And that was the core foundation of me figuring out how
Hmm.
important of a skill that was to my real estate investing business.
All right. Okay. What is the, or which is the one habit that was crucial to your success?
Consistency.
Okay.
which is a form of repetition, right? It's a form of that multiplication factor of realizing, hey, if it's one thing I got to do today, it's to repeat the marketing process and to be
Mhm.
disciplined and organized on that. That's it. Because if you don't keep your marketing out there consistently, things shut down, business drops, and ooh, I wonder why. It's because you don't have any consistency, right? You got to get consistent. When I understood that and I kept consistent, business got good. Take my eye off the ball, business would start to sink. So bring my eye back on the ball and get it back up and keep it consistent. That's what matters. And unfortunately, Ted, most people are horrible at being consistent.
Yeah.
The only thing they're consistent at is being inconsistent or
Yeah.
watching too much
After a while,
TV.
they just drop the ball, Oh,
They drop
I
the
can't
ball.
see no progress, so I don't know if it's gonna work. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're just this much far away from success. They don't realize
So
that
so
sometimes. Yeah.
close. But look, hey man, there's a lot of distractions. TV is very
Yeah.
distracting because you could just watch something all day long. Doom scrolling on your phone is a total and complete distraction. I mean, cut 20 minutes of doom scrolling out a day. Cut 20 minutes of social media and read something or focus on your own business. Watch what happens to your life.
That's true.
You'll get a
That's
lot
true.
more out of
Absolutely.
it than 20 minutes of social media posts.
Mhm. All right. Final
I probably
question.
offended all the kids out there, but oh well.
No, but that's true, right? That's true. Social media sometimes takes up a lot of time away from these kids. Yeah. Not only kids, adults too, I would say, Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Tom, final question. How can Decoding Cashflow listeners get in touch with you?
Best places on my website. There's an entire training podcast. I do my podcast kind of old school, the longer interviews and longer things. It's tomzeeb.com, TOMZ as in zebra, EEB as in boy.com. And if you put /guides, GUIDES, there's a bunch of downloadable guides on there as well. Some on marketing, some on negotiation, some on deal making. So you'll enjoy all of that as well. So those are free gifts, just free downloads for you. tomzeeb.com /guides.
Awesome. All right, Tom, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.
And we'll surely stay in touch.
Thanks, Ted.
All right. Take care.
Are you looking to achieve massive success in your life without dealing with costly investment nightmares? If yes, then this is the podcast for you. Here, we provide engineers and busy professionals all the secrets and strategies to create multiple streams of income, build generational wealth, and live a meaningful life by design. Here's your host, Ted Patel.